This video is from my series that walks you through how to build a career in film and television production. Okay, so this is the first sort of long research exercise that's actually kind of fun. You get to talk about and look at the work that you admire. And the purpose of doing this is to determine a vertical that you work in, because you're going to see a pattern of what you like. What are the 10 or 20 shows that you love that you've watched over the past 3 to 5 years, and you thought to yourself, this is amazing. I want to make shit like that. And I say 3 to 5 years because you don't want to go back too far, and we want to use those as references of the current material that's in a particular vertical. And most of the time, when you pick through these 10 or 20 shows, you're going to find a pattern, and that pattern will fit into a particular vehicle. So the goal here is to identify a vertical and to set a field that we want to target, right? What's the work we want to target? And then we want to connect some dots. And the dots we're going to connect are who are the people who made the shows happen in whatever area you want to work in. So it's going to identify a vertical for you. And then we're going to take a step further and figure out, all right, I want to be a director. Who hires directors? Development executives. Now, development executives are harder to connect dots than our producers, because we can just go look at IMDb and connect a bunch of producer dots, right? Development executives, not so much, but we can do some deeper research about who produced it and then collect some data about those people using what public information we can find, okay? And we're going to do this on a spreadsheet that's called the show analysis, and I'll pull that up in just a second. Let me flip to that page. Here we go. And then let's also pull up. So we basically have two pieces of material that we're going to look, two resources we're going to look for. One is we're going to use IMDb to connect some dots in Wikipedia. So if you're sort of at an inflection point where you're like, I don't remember what shows I loved for the past 3 or 5 years, in the resources at the back of this, I'll show you some search strings that you can use in Google to get a list of programs that have been made. These are films in the United States. It features your jam. These are American television series, and it goes by year, and you can sort of clip through this list and see everything that's on there. It's broadcast and cable. Broadcast is ABC, NBC, CBS, and local affiliates wherever you live, right? When you turn on the TV, whatever local station you get, that's broadcast. Streamer isn't always included in these lists. They sometimes, not sometimes, they most of the time list them separately. And the thing you're looking for is original programming when you're doing research for this kind of exercise. So you don't, obviously, Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu all repurpose or redistribute other producers' content. So you want to look for the material that is original content, okay? So the exercise is to fill out 10 to 20 shows that you like. Then you're going to go look at the target title of what that is, and then who was their hiring manager for those shows. And then you can also fill out exhibitor, distributor, and production company. The exhibitor and distributor of a particular project isn't really that important. It's designed to give you an opportunity to understand how the industry is structured, how a show winds up being seen, and who might be financing one project or another. And the process in its simplest form: production companies make projects, they sell to distributors, distributors sell to exhibitors. And somewhere in that cycle, typically in distribution, there's a financier paying to have your project and a whole bunch of others made. Now let's talk in more detail about the difference between target title and hiring manager for writer, director, actor, and producer. The target title are the producers, directors, and writers who we want to target for informational interviews. We're looking people who do a particular job and their credits. We're looking at both. We also want to stack rank them. There's a lot of subjectivity here, and most of it applies to all except crew. Crew is a lot less nebulous because you can lift the people you want to target straight out of IMDb. It's easy to find them. Their names are obvious. So we want to stack rank them into top choice, mid-level, and low level. Now, stack ranking them doesn't mean we're going to put the top choice on our list of people we're going to target first. It just means that they're the highest level people. We obviously want to get to them if we can, but they're very difficult to get to. In fact, most of them are probably ungettable. They're showrunners and they're directors who are famous or consistently working, and every other junior person wants to know them. It's the Joss Whedons, Shonda Rhimes, Ryan Murphy, Chris Lloyd, Stephen Levitan, David Kelly. You know the names. You've seen them before. They show up in the main credits in movies. They're executive producers on big shows. You might get to them, but you probably won't. And if you do get to them, the amount of time you're going to get with those people is going to be very, very limited. And it's going to be a big ask, a huge favor that you don't necessarily want to give away right now or anytime soon. And by the way, these people, the top choice people, they will not solve all your problems if you can only get to just one of them. It's not the purpose of putting them in the top choice. The purpose is to identify producers who make content you admire and then work down from them to the people that work for them so that you can understand who the producers are, who the executive producers are, and the people who are making shows consistently so you can get hired on them, so you can know what's coming up in the immediate term. Next is the mid-level people. They're the gettable people. These are the writers, producers, and directors. They've done a few things. They came up as staff writers or as an assistant to a producer, executive producer, or showrunner, or creator. They're connected to the industry and they're connected to top talent or our top level connections. They're attached to them somehow, but you don't quite know how. And they're people that are gettable for you. It might be, like we talked about earlier, Jenny Robbins. That could be a person who is attainable, that could be a get for you. Are you going to get to Lee Morris in the Killing Eve example? Probably not. He has a crazy long list of big shows. He's a showrunner, he's a seller, all of that. And then there's the low level. They're the assistants, the coordinators, the UPMs, the line producers, the people who don't have big titles, but they're still connected to the show. They're still worth knowing. They are informational interviews that are absolutely worth getting because they talk to everybody. They get asked. In fact, they may even have their own people they want to get hired into a slot. They may have a PA they want to put in. They may have an assistant job they know that's opening. They may have a post-production runner job that's opening. There's all kinds of jobs these people could get you connected with. Writer's assistants, director's assistants, wardrobe assistants. These people are connected. Build your network out and get to know them. Don't completely discount them. I haven't listed them here. We're not going to go through it in this analysis, but they're worth trying to connect to and do a 20-minute informational with them. It's absolutely worth it. So when we're stack ranking them, we want to stack rank the mid-level people. They might be a producer who came up as an AD or a UPM or a post supervisor. Those might be low-level people. We're looking for people to connect with who have a wide network, who are consistently working, going from one show to the next. The producer with one credit, not as valuable as the producer with 10 or 15 credits. The reason is that producer with just one credit could be an agent, a manager, they could be a friend, it could just be someone that's getting laid off on the show by the studio for one reason or another. You never know. So you're looking for the people who consistently work, who jump from one project to the next. And that's essentially what your target titles are. So the hiring manager. The hiring manager are the people who make the decision on who to put in the seat for an open slot, for an open job. For crew, it can be any number of people, but think department heads, gaffer, DP, key grip, production coordinator, and they're number 2 in the department as well. In electric, Best Boy Electric, a grip, second company grip, and in production, an assistant production office coordinator. These are the jobs in the departments who choose who to pick for whatever jobs you want to get into. Many of them as entry-level jobs will not be accessible. They're not going to be available to you. They're largely union jobs. Some of the non-union shows you would get on are probably not projects that I would want to be producing on or working on or breaking into, because then you're getting into non-union sort of disconnected material that isn't set up with a studio or set up with a producer who's well connected. For writers, directors, and producers, it's a production company, executive producer, a producer, and the executive of the network. By the way, at the networks and at the studios, there's both development and there's also production, and in some cases, production finance. if the structure exists wherever you're looking, and there's no way to actually know until you start to develop relationships and collect information about what company is structured and how they're structured. The information about the hiring manager, this is data that can be hard to find and possibly not relevant in this exercise. It might come in later as you learn more about the business and more about the companies that you're participating with. The purpose of the column in the file is to separate the hiring manager if you know or you can figure out who they are. If you don't, just leave it blank. If you're not able to figure out who they are, leave the column blank. In fact, the majority of the time you're going to find that the column will be blank. So the hiring manager in the decision making at a production company follows a traditional development staff. The production company will have within its structure a creative executive, a director of development, a VP of development, and then there's a principal. That's a traditional studio structure from the bottom up. Obviously that can change and typically pretty fast, every year or two, especially in the creative executive and director of development roles. Those will change pretty quickly. The principal is the one who is the most difficult to get to, and the principals these days are usually writers and directors, and to some extent actors. Although actor deals are mostly vanity deals and don't really go anywhere, but knowing that the structure exists within those companies is valuable information. The point in development is you have to impress the mid-level person first, then move your way up the food chain to the principal who will ultimately take that project into a studio. You're not going to get to the principal first. Most likely you're not going to get to the principal first. Their staff will vet you and your work long before you ever talk to the principals. That's the difference between a target title and the hiring manager. Okay, here's my list of the top 20. And in next week's exercise, we'll pull the detail for each project and we'll show you how we're going to use that information. So for this week's admired list exercise, all you're doing is just pulling the 20 to 30 shows that you admire and would want to work on. If you already know what vertical you're interested in working, then you should focus your show selection on that vertical. In other words, if you want to work in hour drama, pull hour dramas. You want to work in half-hour sitcoms, do that. You want to work in award shows, pick the award shows, which there aren't a lot, but nonetheless, pick the award shows. If you want to work in reality, then pick reality. Stay in your vertical and choose whatever it is that you're interested in working in. If you have no idea what vertical you like or what you want to participate in, then list your favorite shows and see if they fit into a vertical. If that still remains an open question for you, don't delay and get on a Q&A or submit an email to get some help to find some clarity. The vertical you choose is really important. Get it figured out this week so you can start next week with a focused list of the 20 shows in your vertical that you admire, so you can then do the next step of the research that will collect all the information about who's on those shows and who you're going to try to target to get connected to.